And it's time to go live on another bicycle live stream on Sunday, December the 22nd at 7:05 a.m. I've ridden 30 kilometers and it's really pleasant out here this morning. It's a really quiet Sunday morning. I've got to say I'm really enjoying it. It reminds me of the old days. It reminds me of the old days when the Gold Coast had a lot less people in it and you could just enjoy the peace and serenity now. But yeah, it's really quite relaxing. I think everyone slept in this morning. It's almost like the quietest morning of the year, which will be on Wednesday, which is Christmas morning. It is the best morning to be out and about because it is the quietest morning of the year. But anyway, I digress. This morning's topic, one that is coming up a lot lately with recent events, is about injustice. And in fact, it was something that I was talking to a few people yesterday at the Vegan Luck about. And it's something that I'm very adamant about and have been all my life. And I wanted to just expand on it, talk about how I feel about injustice, talk about how I approach injustice, and maybe you'll get some ideas and maybe you'll get some ideas. Also, I noticed when I listened back to yesterday morning's live stream that there was actually annoying wind noise buffeting through. So let me know if that's the case again this morning, and I'll try repositioning the mic because I wasn't even aware of it yesterday. I can't monitor what the sound is through this earpiece that I'm wearing. It only gives me notification sounds. So if it is annoying, please give me some feedback. So, and thank you to everyone that's watching. So in the last week, or in fact in the last month in Australia, we have seen incredible ineptitude in leadership, and leadership from our Prime Minister. And leadership is not the word to use to describe his actions. In fact, it's been the complete opposite. We've had extreme effects from the extremely dry environment, and we've had these fires that have been burning now for a month, and on Thursday there were 2 volunteer firefighters died in an accident and left behind a young family, both of them. And we have seen our Prime Minister show no leadership skills, and in fact what we've seen him do is the complete opposite. We have seen from him deniability of the cause. We have seen from him a watering down of the seriousness of it. We have even seen a complete lack of empathy and regard, as was shown this week when he snuck off quietly. Good morning, Donna, thank you for watching. When he snuck off quietly to Hawaii for a holiday. Now bear in mind, just in relation to that much needed holiday that he took this week, right in the middle of this crisis of fires and right in the middle of it all. Bear in mind that he's got 2 holidays already planned for January, so in only a couple more weeks he'll be holidaying in both Japan and I think it might be Europe. So it's not like he sorely needed one in Hawaii, so at a time when the proof of his leadership skills of stepping up were shown, that a complete lack of stepping up to address the situation. So, we have a situation where he is discrediting the fact that we've had over 600 houses have burnt, so there's been over 600 properties lost, people's properties. There's been, I'd hate to think of the number of animals that have died but they are saying koalas alone would be, I read a figure of 5,000, they've said now, which is incredible. It's just so sad. All the animals, it's just countless number of animals. The environmental destruction, the health effects as in not just smoke inhalation, but extreme tiredness, mental distress, all these effects on the volunteer firefighters. And our Prime Minister had the arrogance, absolute arrogance, to say that they want to be there fighting the fires. It's like that's what they want to do, that's their natural habitat sort of thing. What is happening, and I talked about this yesterday, is when we know these things are going on, when we see these injustices, and these injustices are happening in many parts of the world, with Trump watering down the environmental protection in the United States and pulling out of the Paris Agreement, with Bolsonaro in Brazil wanting to take over the land that belongs to the native people so that he can expand the areas that are used for grazing, so that he can reduce the price of meat. When you see these things happening, when we see this happening, we have a... oh, are you kidding me? I didn't know this, Donna. Our Prime Minister donated $210 million, I've got to stop to read this, to the Hillsong Happy Clapping Church and refused to help our firemen. Wow. Morris Gum can stick his head up his butt because he's just shit pours from his mouth. We are surrounded by fire at lake's entrance. What the hell has Morris Gum done? Nothing. Yes, I am mad. Okay, well, this is the subtitle of this. It's don't get mad, get wise. And I'll explain why that's important and how to do it. I was not aware of that he donated $210 million to the church. My goodness. Yep, okay, I'm angry now. It's just wrong. And we were talking about this yesterday, and I was talking to a few friends at the Vegan Luck about just how wrong these sort of things are. And it was it brought up this live stream for me this morning that, when we focus on injustice in the world, it's very easy to get really, really disheartened, really, really angry. It's just really, really easy to sort of find ourselves in that situation. But it's not helpful to be like that. So, but anyway, I'll get back to that in a minute. One of the points I wanted to make is that injustice has always existed in the world, sadly, and it's a result of humanity's selfish desires, false ego, the false ego wanting to be number one. It's always existed, but the difference that we have now in recent times, in the last few years especially, is with the growth of social media, we have immediate access to what's going on. We find out immediately, like we get live streams as these events are happening. So we find out immediately what's going on, and we are able to, the people that are perpetrators of this injustice are unable to hide what they're doing. In the old days, when I say in the old days, before you had your digital media, you'd be relying on news coming from mainstream sources, which of course was filtered, and you'd be relying on reading it through a newspaper the next day or the day after or weeks later when they found out, and you'd be relying on the filtered news coming through the television. Now we have the unfiltered truth being directly live streamed to us through social media. So just be aware of how absolutely powerful this tool is of social media in bringing injustice to shining a light on injustice, because it is such a powerful tool that we should use it as much as possible. And the networking capabilities of social media to spread the message of injustice is just fantastic. So it's up to us to use this tool in this way. So, and Kathleen says, totally agree with your comments. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for watching. So going back to Scummo, what a leader in any sort of leader in any sort of situation, whether it's a government leader or whether it's a political leader, whether it's a business leader, the sign of the quality of their leadership is how they react to extreme events. So we're having extreme fires because of how dry it has become because of the climate crisis. Now, how our leader reacts to this is a sign of how sincere he is in whether he really wants to help the country, which is, what he should be doing, or whether he really wants to still be looking after his mates, which is so obvious that that's what he's doing. He's just looking after his mates, and hence his deniability that there's a problem and it's okay, and the volunteers want to do this work without being paid and all this crap. So a leader, the fire, I think it's a group of about 21 former fire chiefs and fire officials and that have been trying to meet with Scummo since I think it's May. I think it was. They've been trying to meet with him, and he has refused to meet with them. The best they've been able to get is that he's agreed to have one of his lesser minions, I think it might have been Andrew Littleford, meet with him, I think. But he's, that it speaks volumes. What a responsible leader would do in this circumstance would be, right, we need to tackle this. This is a climate crisis. This is affecting people. This is affecting lives. This is affecting businesses, the environment. This is, having an extreme effect on the country in all these different areas. We need to do something about this now. We need to rally together. We need to figure out how to tackle this. A leader in these circumstances would call on people with experience that can advise. He would immediately secure emergency funding to provide support for those fighting the fires, and this emergency funding would pull from areas that are not high priority areas at the moment. So he would bring in the best talented people to work out strategies to get on top of this situation. He would not go and have a holiday in Hawaii. He would not say that there's not a problem. He would not work with deniability and discrediting. So what we have seen is the actions of somebody who is acting unjustly because of their vested interest, because of their greed, and we can get mad or we can get wise. The madness won't help us. I understand our initial reaction of getting angry, like I've just found out now that he's donated over 200 million to a church. Incredible. So, but it doesn't help us. It affects us. We just go around carrying that anger. It's a topic I've talked about a few times before, that carrying anger has no benefits at all. There's none at all. We have the right to defend ourselves, but beyond that, if we are carrying anger, it's just destructive to us. It's our anger destroying us. It's our poison that poisons us. So what we need to do is become wise about this. We need to look at how we can react and respond in a positive sense. One of the most obvious things that we can do is let as many people know what's going on by sharing the information about those people who are doing unjust acts, whether it's our politicians, whether it's business leaders, whoever it is. Share the information so that more people become aware of it, and then we can take action on many different levels. We have the power to remove selfish politicians from office, and we're given that opportunity. We're given the opportunity. It's like it's called the vote. We are given the opportunity. We saw how, when people voted Trump in, we've seen how disastrous that is. We've seen what happens when you vote in a narcissistic, sexist, racist person into a position of power. It's an extremely dangerous situation. Yes, well said, Kathleen. Anger is never the answer to any solution. That actually would make a really good meme. So we've seen what's happened there. And, on a local level in Australia, we've got the same opportunities that you have in every democratic process to make your vote count. Now, we were talking about this yesterday. How does somebody like Scummo and his political party, how do they get into power? Well, they use the greatest motivator that people react to, and that is they use the motivation of fear. So they make the other party your enemy. So they will make the Labor Party the enemy of the people, so that you vote against the Labor Party. It's that sort of technique. Fear is psychologically shown to be the greatest motivator for most people. And I can't think of the studies I've seen on it, but it has been studied, and I did see something just in the last week about it. Donna says, he is, and his church does not care, as they believe this is the end, and Jesus is coming to save him and Brian, the head of the Hillsong Church. Well, interestingly, probably if this is the end, probably the only two people that won't be saved would be him and Brian. I think, the irony of that is not lost on me at all. Oh my goodness. So what I'm saying is, you're listening to this live stream now. You need to remember, you need to be wise. You need to be very, very particular where you put your power of your vote when the next opportunity comes up. You need to be very, very particular. You need to think long and hard about this, because otherwise you are putting into power somebody that cannot be easily removed, as we've discovered even with impeachment with Trump. And once that person is there and cannot easily be removed until at least their first term is up, then, well, there might be a bit of strong wind here. I just feel it. I'll just slow down so it's not too bad. And then, once they're in there, the electoral promises they made just don't happen. They just don't happen. It's, how many times have we seen that? So, become wise. Don't fall for the horse shit that these people talk about. Be very, very careful. And Donna says that's why he is dangerous. Yes, positions of power can take even somebody who has good intentions initially and can put them into a situation where they are overcome by the power that they now have, and they change. Their good intentions can change, and there's, this has been happening throughout history. But remember, we're at a point now where we have technology on our side, where we can alert people immediately to what is going on, where we can rally people together, where we can create events to protest against what is going on. These things, when they happened, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, it was not so easy to, organise protests. I mean, it was done. I mean, look, the protesters against the Vietnam War in the US. I mean, they're huge protesting. But it's just that there is an immediacy that we have now that we didn't have previously. Thank you. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to use this social media power in order to, alert people and to wisen them up. And Deborah says, are there any genuine or honest politicians, though? Do they get up the ladder by being fair and honest? Well, actually, the personality type of the sort of person that rises up the rungs of the ladder is, unfortunately, whether it's political or business-wise, is unfortunately they tend to have the tendencies of narcissism and there's another word too I can't think of. I've forgotten the word. But it's the whole reason why they become business and political leaders, because they have the ability to keep pushing, to keep sort of riding over the top of everyone. Some of them do it with a high degree of charm. Some of them do it with a lot of force. Some do it by using fear as the motivator. But this is like an art form to some people, and they are absolutely determined to succeed at all costs. And this is shown in how they can rise to the top. And of course, what happens is they get to, the word I was looking for earlier was megalomaniac. That was the word I was looking for. They get to those positions of power, and then that's still not enough. So the exploitation of others gets even worse in these positions of power. And it's very scary, because there's many examples of people that were in positions of power in business that were earning ridiculous amounts of money and still doing things that were just completely wrong on every level, immoral, unethical, resulting in the deaths of so many people. And it's an area that I've looked at a few times now, business leaders, and how they've just had no conscience when they've gotten to the top of their game, and they've just kept pushing, and it's really scary. It's very sad. Ruins people's lives. People end up dead from it. So just be aware that, and Kathleen says you are so on the money. Thanks, Kathleen. Just be aware that to some extent or other, all of us suffer from the same disease, which is we all want to be number one. But for the average person that feels suppressed in life and doesn't feel like they're getting anywhere, they never really sort of rise above a certain level, So, but for the competitive personality types, that their need to be number one is such a strong fire within them that they just keep pushing, and they do sort of rise above the scum. So, and we live in a world where this is the disease of the world. Everyone has a false ego that thinks it is number one and wants to be God. So we all clash with each other on some level, on a interpersonal level, family level, on a neighbours, with friends, with people in business, with people in other nationalities, with people in other countries, you know, and it just gets worse and worse until we end up in world wars. All because some lunatic that has not connected with his heart wants to play God. And this is look around the world and just see the examples of it. And it's really, really scary. So, of course, the answer to that is always one of love. The answer is always connect to the love in your heart so that you're getting the wisdom coming through, and you're not finding your meaning through trying to be God. So that's what I wanted to get across. Oh, hang on, there's a couple of comments there. Donna says, our governments want to keep us at a manageable level. It is... Now, I can't read the rest of that at the moment. Hang on. I'll keep getting a little warning thing come up, covering the screen. Here we go. It is not so different than the feudal system. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes, well, let's make the minions wonderful little workers and tax them and, you know, supply the whole system. But Donna says, so how do we get rid of Morriscum? We get rid of Morriscum by voting intelligently, by voting wisely, by realising that we've made a mistake, and rather than kicking ourselves, rather than getting really angry, we go, you know what, I've learnt. I'm not going to make that mistake again. I am going to try and do my absolute best to give the power of my vote to someone who seems to have credibility and ethics, and not somebody who wants to use a fear agenda to make me vote for them. I want somebody I want to vote for because I feel good about them, not because I feel bad about the other party. So that's something to keep in mind. So, I'm being tailed. Let me just get past this car. And right, so I hope you have a great Sunday. Remember to live vegan and save lives. And if you've got any other comments, please put them on here. And I'll speak to you soon. Ahimsa.